presents it very clearly. Anyone who's part of it is part of it. And the patriarchs all marry foreign women all the time anyway, and so on and so forth. Anyway, I'll just leave that aside. Those are asides, but I have to move along. Anyway, so God takes them out with His power. And more about, these are now ceremonial things. Exodus is turned into a ceremonial book by this time. The history is secondary, the ceremony is primary. Like we're dealing with line 12, anything from the issues of the womb, firstborn of anything belongs to God, you know. So you have to take it up to the temple, and even you have to dedicate your firstborn sons in some way to God. Anyway, so when Pharaoh had let them go, they didn't take the road, line 17, to the land of the Philistines. Now, the land of the Philistines, again, an anachronism, because even at this time, it doesn't seem like the Philistines were there yet, and at least not in force. Depends if this is after, the Philistines come in around 1200 BC. So, since this is written later, people might call it that because that's what it becomes. Go to the Sea of Reeds. Notice line 19, it's the Red Sea. It's not the Red Sea, it's Yam Suf. Yam Suf is the Sea of Reeds. It's that marshland like the Delta area. So again, you could have currents there, you could have tides. I don't know if you've been to Mont Saint-Michel in France, where the tide comes in and the road is covered, and then later the tide goes out and you can drive out to it. I mean, it's quite possible in this area you could have tides coming in and out, and therefore the Egyptian army or pursuers could have been caught in the change of tides. You wouldn't have to have two walls of water on either side, as this is portrayed. If it's going to be two walls of water on either side, it's a kind of memory of Thera, perhaps, of the tidal wave situation. But we've seen Cecil B. DeMille, and that's how it's portrayed here, two walls of water on either side. But you see, it isn't the Red Sea. It's the Yam Suf line. You see that? The Sea of Reeds. It's not the Red Sea that they're crossing. So we get all these different, and the God goes behind, in front of them by day as a pillar of cloud, and at night a pillar of fire to give them light. So it's like a rear guard and an advance guard, a pillar of cloud by night and a pillar of fire by day. Again, all these are supernatural elements. I'm not going to comment on them. You can decide what you want to make of them. It's like the heavenly host in a way, changes its station. Look at here, line 19. The pillar of cloud changed station from the front to the rear of them and remained there. So the pillar of cloud is like an angelic host changing its battle order to the rear. And this is going to be the prelude to the parting of the Red Sea, as everyone knows it. So finally Pharaoh changes his mind. It sends 600, line 7, of his best chariots out after them. Again, I don't know if Pharaoh had the communications to do this, given the distances involved where Pharaoh would have been and where the Hebrews were. So that's another thing you must think about when you want to try to historicize this episode. And the people start complaining, line 12, against Moses. We would rather have stayed and worked with the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. And Moses says, stand firm. Yahweh will do the fighting. He will save you. He will fight for you. All you have to do is sit and do nothing. Just shut up. And then Yahweh said to Moses, raise your staff. Here's the biggie. And who's doing it? Moses. Well, Aaron. Hey, where are you, Aaron? I don't see you. Moses stretched out his hand, line 21, just like he did with the hail and all the other things. So Moses is quite capable of operating on his own. He doesn't need any helper or mouthpiece. And that's a pretense of the story to give the priests more prestige in this, I'm afraid. But that's just my explanation. If you have a better one, that's fine. I'm not trying to sound the only one. So it is the angel of God, line 19, who is in the front, marching like an army, and then moves to the rear, like a rear guard, and a pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud, the angel of God. And Moses, line 21, stretched out his hand, and he drove the sea back with a strong easterly wind. Well, there you go. You see, it could be just the easterly wind that did it. And it's just a shallow area of the Sea of Reeds, not a huge, waterway. But as the story puts it, walls of water to the right and to the left. Well, that makes it very dramatic, and that's what most people believe, and that's what they see in the movies. But whether that actually is a credible occurrence, you'll have to decide. And then the Egyptians cry out, line 25, look, Yahweh is fighting for them against the Egyptians. Look, the Egyptians know the name of the Hebrew God. It's the first I knew that the Egyptians could know the name of the Hebrew God. You see, I'm going to make a note of that. Egyptians know his name, which is supposed to be a secret name. Anyway, but I guess they got all killed in any case. The fleeing Egyptians marched right into the sea as it came back, and Yahweh overthrew the Egyptians in the middle of the sea. And the sons of Egypt marched through on dry ground, walls of water to the right and left of them, line 30. This is the dramatic story. But I love this little thing at the end. And Israel performed Israel witnessed the great act. Now, after Miriam's song, I think that at one point it says, and they saw the bodies of the Egyptians in the water lying there the next morning. Now, that could have happened, you see, if there was a situation of tides and a pursuing group of people who got caught in the tides, and then the people woke up in the morning and saw the bodies lying there and, and were amazed. Then the story could have grown up like we have it here. So I think that element of seeing the body, I don't know where that is, but I think you'll see it momentarily. Okay, so it was then that Moses and the sons of Israel sang this, oh, here it is, line 30. Yahweh rescued Israel, and Israel saw the Egyptians lying dead on the shore. That is the point, and they witnessed, so they saw the bodies. They could have woke up the next morning, saw them lying dead on the shore, and were amazed at what they saw. It's just one explanation. I'm not saying that's satisfactory, but I think that's how a story can get started. That is probably a truthful element. If there was such a thing, and if in fact they remembered it, the most truthful element in it is seeing the bodies lying there and then trying to explain the reason. And this is the explanation the poets present. I think simpler is the tide shifted, but that's not enough to impress people, I don't think. Now, here is the song, which is obviously an old song, presented in